Welcome to another episode of the Miles Offside podcast, where we talk a little bit of football and a whole lot of nonsense. My name is Oscar Puente, also known as Footy From Afar, and with me, as always, is my co-host, quiz wizard Chuck Bailey. Chuck, it's just me and you this week, huh?
Yeah, just us, just the best two, the ones that you all want to hear in your earballs, the most entertaining, most youthful, exuberant, and beautiful ones.
Yes, insofar as they are able to hear us this week, because with Ian out, I will be doing the editing, and obviously I am nowhere near the level of him, so if this sounds like absolute shit, it'll be a short episode anyway, so just hang in there.
You won't have to put up for it for long.
Yeah, exactly. Chuck, we'll talk about the actual soccer of it later, but you went to a fucking match this week. Tell me about it. What was it like being in the stadium? You saw Palace. I want to hear all about that.
Oh, it's been like 2 years, because I hadn't been for a little while even before COVID. I went to a pre-season game. I drove to the stadium, parked on like a residential street near kind of where me and my dad used to park when I was a kid. I had the same walk. You walk into the ground, you got people pissed up at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon singing songs. You've got kids going for their first game. You've got away fans coming up the road. You walk through the residential streets. You see the stanchion of the floodlights popping out above a house. It was emotional. It was beautiful. I was in the stadium like an hour before, and I just sat in my seat, just existing. They had the end of the Liverpool-Burnley game on the big screen.
Oh, that's
I was
nice.
sat next to someone who actually knew what they were talking about when it came to football and like analysing the game. It was a lovely, lovely experience. Great to be back. Football. Beautiful, beautiful times.
Did you feel weird at all being in a crowd? The first time we went out and were like in an actual crowded space, even though it was outdoors, I felt at least mildly uncomfortable the whole time. At least I was very aware of it. Did that prevent you from having fun the other day, or were you just like in the moment, like in the fucking stadium, carried away by the magic of like match day?
Yeah, I don't think it's not that I'm against it or want everyone to be back to normal, and I understand, but I just think because throughout the whole pandemic working in hospitality, I was used to seeing people and being around people a lot and crowds and those kind of things, it hasn't really been an effect too much for me. Plus, it is open through the concourses and stuff. People are keeping their distance. I was in earlier, so it wasn't, the queues that I have seen that were going down the street, waiting for people to get into the game and COVID checks and whatever. So
Yeah. That was smart getting there early.
Exactly. Don't want to be stuck in it. People were getting in like 15 minutes later, and that's mad. But no, I didn't feel too bad personally. The ground wasn't full, and I don't think I've really seen any stadiums that have been full. Just seats dotted around, be that because there aren't as many people taking up season tickets. I think it's a big outlay in one go for a lot of people this year, with the COVID of it all, and also some people feeling safe. And, unfortunately, some of the people who maybe did have season tickets before them passing away, which we've seen at a lot of clubs, and a lot of them have been giving minute silences and minutes applauses for those that have been lost throughout the pandemic. Because some clubs didn't even have fans towards the end of last season, I don't think. I think the clubs have done a lot of work to make the stadium safer and try to control that. And I think people are more conscious about what they do and who they hang out with and how things go. But, hopefully long may it continue to getting back that sort of semblance of normal life where you can go to those things. And it was just incredible actually going to a game again. And I'm sure anyone listening that has had the opportunity so far to go and see any team, Man City tickets are available on general release if you ever want to go, so you don't even need to be a member or anything.
Well, that's good to hear, man. That makes me really happy because you fucking deserve a good day out, and like it's magical, and that's pretty cool.
Thanks, brother.
But yeah, let's get moving then. If you are joining us for the first time, thank you. We are very happy to have you. We are normally 2 Brits and 1 American, and we try to talk about the Premier League, but often get distracted. And we like to kick things off around here with our very popular segment, Rapid Fire News. Our top story this evening, we're going to check in on Posh Island because Peterborough and Cardiff City have been charged by the Football Association for a melee during their 2-2 championship draw on Tuesday. A foul by Cardiff's Marlon Pack in the 43rd minute sparked a shoving match, with Pack and Bluebirds teammate Aidan Flint being booked. The clubs allegedly failed to ensure their players conducted themselves in an orderly fashion. Just sounds like a Tuesday night out in Peterborough to me. I don't know. What do you think, Chuck?
Yeah, Ian actually got involved in scuffles outside the ground. That's why he can't be with us this week. He is on remand, potentially being charged with a fray. Yeah, what a typical week that he doesn't show up and we've actually got something entertaining about his team, you know. They've earned some points, they're having a fight, they're up to the dizzying heights of 17th in the league. A whole 2 points off of relegation. They were 4th at one point when they were winning against Cardiff, but you know, they scored a couple of injury time goals last week against Derby, and they were victim of them this week to kind of drop them down the table. Why are we talking this much about Peterborough? Wow, we've changed.
Yeah, I was browsing the BBC football news stories, and I saw their name, and I was like, oh, anytime they're on the front page, we have to include them. And it was for violence. We love violence. Violence is great on the pitch, not off the pitch.
In a way.
Yeah, to a limit. Speaking of actually violence on the pitch, that is a perfect transition to our next story, because Galatasaray's Marcao was red carded after headbutting and punching his own teammate on Monday. The Brazilian defender was dismissed just after the hour mark of Gala's 2-0 win over Garunzaspor after losing it with winger Mohamed Karim Aktürkoğlu. When was the last time you punched a teammate and headbutted a teammate, Chuck? Is that why Ian is out? Did you headbutt Ian?
Yeah, I was also outside Cardiff and Peterborough and thought Ian was out of line, but they haven't caught me yet. I don't think... Have I ever headbutted a teammate? No. Not to my knowledge. I'm surprised when you dropped this story in there. I thought maybe Patrick Van Aanholt was involved and probably would have headbutted him for not defending. Because he's at Galatasaray now. But what an absolute madness. We haven't seen this since Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer, both playing for Newcastle back in the day, in the early 2000s it must have been, who started fighting each other and then both got sent off in the most confusing manner. So, yeah, I wonder what can lead you.
Yeah, teammates usually save it for practice when they're going to get in fights, whether that be at Chelsea or at Spurs or Arsenal, notably in the last recent few years. There's been some fracas at the training grounds and whatnot. I think at City too, with the season they were filming. All or Nothing, I might be mistaken on that one, but
maybe.
On the pitch, man, that's just like putting your dirty laundry out for everybody.
Oh my god, I know this is completely unrelated, but I totally forgot they're filming Arsenal All or Nothing this season.
No, they're not. Get out.
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
Oh,
I can't wait to see the Lukaku episode. Woo!
I was gonna put a disclaimer in at the beginning of this podcast. I might do it in the post, but saying be careful, Adam. No, I'm just kidding. We won't be that harsh. Maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah, they're filming an Arsenal Amazon documentary.
How the fuck do Spurs and Arsenal get on that before Chelsea do? Bias, classic anti-Chelsea London bias, I say. No comment from Chuck on that. All right, let's keep moving.
No comment. They probably, to be honest, if there's a club that doesn't want to invite all the cameras in to potentially spying on stuff, maybe. Yeah.
We do have a potentially money laundering Russian oligarch as our owner, but he does love the club, so, who knows. I'm going to probably cut that comment out anyway.
Maybe, but it's out there.
Maybe. Yeah, just put it out there. All right, let's move on then. Let's keep going. Just a quick check-in on Gary Cahill. Club favorite Gary Cahill played for Chelsea, played for Palace. Bournemouth have completed the signing of former England centre-back Gary Cahill on a one-year deal. Cahill, 35, joins the Cherries on a free transfer after coming to the end of his contract with Palace at the end of last season. So we were wondering about where he might go for retirement. Seems like he's going down to the Championship for a little bit, but it's only a one-year contract, so plenty of time to end up at Inter Miami somewhere down the line.
It is a total Bournemouth signing, and they will enjoy paying him if he's gone on a free for probably about 90 grand a week in the Championship. So enjoy that, because he wouldn't take a pay cut to stay at Palace.
Well, he's still got it, man. He's still pretty good. I mean, he missed quite a lot of time through injury for you guys last year, but when he was playing, he was good, I think. Right? How do you feel about losing him?
Fine. After watching Mark Cahill and Joachim Andersen play together this week, I'm like, Gary who? Mamadou who? Like, totally got over it. And Cahill was never the same, really, after his hamstring exploded against Chelsea in that game where literally he was running and he just fell in midair and just went down. And it took a long time. I mean, fair enough to recover from that at 36, I believe, 35 is quite good. But part of the rebuild for Palace, there were certain players that were being offered contracts. Andros Townsend was one, and Gary Cahill was another that would have been on reduced terms, and they wouldn't take it. And so, fair enough to the club. They knew that at some point they needed to move on. Those were the two people that probably would have been the most influential with young players coming in, but c'est la vie, as it were.
You know, you offload a 35-year-old, that's never necessarily, or that's usually not a bad decision, so. But shout out to him, still getting a contract, still playing at pretty high level over in England. Didn't have to move abroad, so that's nice. Speaking of at a high level, ooh, my transitions are on point this week with the Ian out here. The shortlist for UEFA Men's Player of the Year was released recently. Chelsea midfielders Jorginho and N'Golo Kante and Manchester City's Kevin De Bruyne make up the three-man shortlist for UEFA Men's Player of the Year. Chelsea's Emma Hayes is on the shortlist for the Women's Coach of the Year, along with ex-Barcelona boss Luis Cortez and Sweden's Peter Gerhardsson. And then the Men's Coach of the Year nominees are Pep, Tommy Tactics, and Roberto Mancini. Chuck, of those three, who would you pick to be Player of the Year for last year?
Hang on, so it's only those three? That's it? That's the list?
That's the list. Yep. Jorginho, Kante, and De Bruyne. 2 out of the 3 Men's Player of the Year's nominees play in Chelsea's midfield. That feels pretty good, I'm not going to lie. But who would you give it to out of those 3?
I mean, I would give it, based on the last year, it's Kante. But, I mean, Jorginho's going to get it, but I don't want him to get it because I don't think he's the best player. But he won the Champions League and the Euros, so...
And like, instrumental in that Euros chip
yeah,
title.
But he did have his...
He was the heart of that Italy team, to a certain extent.
Yeah, but Jordan Pickford saved his penalty, didn't he? So
true, fair enough. Yeah, so that should disqualify him.
Couldn't get the rave on, so... I mean, I would Kante. It's strange. I mean, De Bruyne is obviously amazing, but he missed so much of the last year with injury.
Yeah, I think it's weird that he made the cut there. Like, NG and Jorginho, like, I get why. Jorginho, like I said, or like you said, and I agree with you, isn't probably one of the 3 best players, but with his trophies and the teams he was involved in, fine. NG is just the best midfielder in the world, and he was, like, absolute lights out throughout that Champions League campaign, fine. But KDB, like, for KDB to get ahead in there over, like, Lewandowski or Messi, for example, is a bit crazy to me. So no consideration for KDB then?
I mean, I can't deny he's not a great player, but I just don't think for me he played anywhere near enough last year to warrant it, really, that it's not necessarily based on previous. I mean, to get to that short list, it's all coach votes and other kind of things, so it can be potentially a bit of a popularity contest. But, I mean, you know, I would want Kante to win it, but I think Jorginho wins it.
I'm exactly on the same page as you there. And then as far as the coach, the men's coach, I mean, you got to give it to Tommy Tactics. He triple defeated Guardiola at the end of the season last year. Like, he has Pep's number. Got to be Tommy Tactics here, right? Or is it Italy boss Mancini? Or do you still give it to Pep for being, you know, Pep?
Mancini's done a lot with that Italy side. Like, that Italy team was bad, like, not long ago. I mean, didn't qualify for the last World Cup.
You know? Yeah.
And then the one before knocked out in the group stages with England. You know, so that you can't knock the work he's done there. And over a consistent period, what was it, like nearly 40 games in a row, wins? Something ridiculous like that?
I cannot say that I've kept up with international
competitions you didn't watch the Euros,
since pretty much the last World Cup. So,
but yeah, it was close to 40 games in a row. And Tuchel, you know, as much as I say about De Bruyne missing out most of the season, Tuchel only coming in January and doing that.
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
It is, but it is still, I think for a manager, it then makes it more impressive.
Yeah, okay. I could see that for sure. Yeah, and I mean, it was instant when he came in. Like, we just never conceded any chances ever again.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think between Tuchel and Mancini, I don't think Guardiola you can give it to for last year. I think it should be between those two, but it'd be interesting to see what happens. I'm being nice to you today.
All right. Speaking of awards, we should shout out. We don't talk about the women's game probably enough, if I'm honest, but we should mention it when something comes up. And forward Morgan Weaver delivered the decisive goal with just 3 minutes left as the Portland Thorns claimed the 2021 Women's International Champions Cup championship, defeating French club Olympique Lyonnais 1-0 at Providence Park on Saturday night. So congratulations to NWSL for getting one over on the English League, and to the Portland Thorns for being essentially the world champion women's club soccer team.
Yeah, because Olympique Lyonnais famously play in England. It's good to see it in regards to women's football. Again, I can't claim to be an expert in it. I've experienced it a bit and watched when it's on, but it's always difficult to follow multiple forms of sport or those kind of bits. So, but I think it's a good thing to see, especially after the USA's dominance in international women's football for such a long time, that then an American team potentially is the Women's National Soccer League in the US retaining more of those players in order to kind of make a stint, and then seeing if that kind of filters on and continues. It's a good thing to see for you to see soccer becoming more of a thing in the US. It's accelerated rapidly over time. The women's game is vastly ahead, I think, of the men's in terms of quality. But then the men's is also catching up, and there's more time and more energy being invested into that as well. So, congratulations to Portland for beating the English side Olympique Lyonnais and winning the title. Good for them.
Well, what I meant by that is because of last year, because of COVID and the leagues and everything, there was a mass exodus of the most talented players from NWSL to the English League, and only has the return process started recently. So for an NWSL team to win that title over an English team, because England was the league with all the talented players last year, was nice. That's all I meant. But, you are right. They were not a French team. They were not an English team that they were playing in the final. Fair enough. And one last story here today. Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola is among several Premier League managers urging players to get vaccinated against COVID-19. This comes after the number of positive tests in the Premier League has risen recently, with 11 positive cases reported on last Monday alone. Fellow managers Arteta, Nuno Espirito Santo, Steve Bruce, and Graham Potter have also called on players to get the vaccine. It's honestly crazy to me that it's not even mandated at this point for players to play.
It's a difficult one to say whether you should be mandated, and I don't want to get into the personal politics of that, but I am double vaccinated and whatever, and I think that there are certain people who do have certain reasons as to why they maybe can't get it or whatever, and people on serious medical grounds who do say that. But it seems strange when, Arsenal, I didn't even realise at the time, but Arsenal were looking to have their first game against Brentford postponed because they've had some sort of COVID outbreak again, which makes me wonder, is it the same thing that happened last time? Because Arteta obviously was the first manager to have it before the season shut down. It was at that point that they actually did it. Ben White missed out today because of a late COVID positive result as well. So hopefully that doesn't continue to spread throughout the Arsenal squad. But when you've got...
And you do wonder what it is about Arsenal specifically, because they were the first ones last year with an outbreak in the club. What are they doing that's different with their protocols? I don't know, but... Or is it just a coincidence? It might just be a complete random coincidence, but...
It could be. It can depend on where people live, or, it would make sense that clubs closer to London, their players live in more metropolitan areas, higher population density, those kind of things.
That's true.
Who knows? That could just be anecdotal. But, so Arteta
Chelsea had a player miss out this week also with Pulisic. Pulisic has a positive test, and he says that he's vaccinated too. He's asymptomatic, so that's, but still, it is getting around, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But, Steve Bruce came out and probably the most vocally was saying that players are believing conspiracy theories and that kind of thing about COVID. And Patrick Vieira, he didn't necessarily say specifically that they should go and get vaccinated, but he said everyone deserves to be educated so that they can make the most informed decision, at least, and not look into noise and conspiracies and rubbish. People saying stuff like, this is all to make money and make money of the vaccine. It's like, it's costing them a lot more money to fucking treat it than, than would just be to leave it alone or whatever forms of... I can't even get into it. My brain can't even fathom to create one of these ideas because I just don't work in that way or operate. It just seems to be like...
Yeah, I mean, you and I are both inclined towards conspiracy theories, and we're both like, no, guys, just fucking, come on.
Just fucking take it on this one, and plus my 5G phone signal's through the roof at the minute, so I can make a phone call anywhere right now, so it's only positives in that regard. But yeah, I think it's important as we see the state footballers, football managers using their status, using their voice, using that to propagate a positive idea, positive image, be that what we've seen in the fight for equality continuously, which will be ever going, and also in this kind of moment of trying to make sure people do seek out and get the correct information, because certain people might not accept it from news outlets or politicians or anything like that, but they might take it if a football manager is saying that they have, or for example, what football players are, and it's just about trying to have as many avenues as possible to get more people vaccinated.
And you've seen that exact thing over here in the US with the NBA. They have helped spread important messages to communities that have otherwise been less responsive to sort of inherent power structures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, not to get too sociological in this conversation, but they can be a force for good and a force to potentially promote a lot of things that to people that need to hear it. Which, by the way, if you're not vaccinated and you're just like choosing not to, but not because of like a specific medical reason from a doctor or whatever, like, go fucking get vaccinated. I'm sick of this lockdown. You're sick of this lockdown. Just fucking do it. Like, come on, get. They're literally paying people in the US to go get vaccinated. Just fucking do it, please.
Wait, how much?
It depends on the state. Like, literally.
Okay.
They're like, come get vaccinated, we'll give you $100 or whatever.
Okay, so that's less than the cost of the flight, so I won't go get vaccinated again.
In the case of a casino nearby where I live, like $100 casino credit if you come in and get vaccinated on site.
What an offer! What an offer! Then you can go to the buffet as well and play some slots, and away you go.
All right, let's get to the actual soccer then for this week, and we might as well start. This game just ended like an hour and a bit ago. We are recording on the Sunday.
Yeah. Let's start with you. All about your bloody team.
Oh, big time, baby! We're the best team in the world. Of course, we're starting with me. I mean, also I have a hurricane like knocking on my window, and I don't want to lose power in the middle of recording. So let's get the important match out of the way first. And that is Arsenal.
Hang on a minute. So you have a hurricane outside your door, and you're here, Ian Stimpson.
Yeah.
No excuse. Jesus.
He's drinking wine or something. I don't know.
He best wish he is in prison.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not quite you coming in like 12 hours after your daughter's born, but we're here powering through. I needed a chance to say that the era of Romelu Lukaku has commenced. Let's fucking go. Arsenal 0, Chelsea 2, Arsenal 0.5. Again, no one ever scores more than 0.5 XG against us. And Chelsea 3.0. Chuck, fucking Chelsea still underperforming their XG despite spending so much money on a striker. It's Tuchel out, right? Gotta be Tuchel out.
Romelu Lukaku Bolengoli! That's the new Shiva Blast for any league fans out there, is Rom's first name. I mean, yeah, what a waste of money. What's the point? Why would you identify a specific need in your club and spend the correct amount of money by offloading a load of academy players that probably weren't going to pay for you anyway? And yeah, just solving a problem. I mean, gee whiz. He took to it like a duck to water, didn't he? Just straight away in there. What have you got as your initiation? Arsenal defenders? Yeah, all right, I'll take that, mate.
Yeah, he is. This does mark the 5th club in a row that he scores on his debut. He scored for West Brom on his debut, Everton on his debut, United, Inter, and now us on the second time around. And of course, his first debut for us, he was like 12 years old, and it was garbage time minutes, in, like 2 minutes at the end of a match. So that's fair enough, I guess. We said last year, we said at the preview episode even, that Chelsea's sort of fatal flaw, their Achilles heel last year, was their underperformance in terms of putting chances away, in terms of XG. We joke they did slightly underperform today, but going out and getting one of the 3 or 4 best strikers in the world, it's like Lewandowski, him,
Haaland.
Haaland, yeah, obviously. Like, he's on that short list. He is probably the best striker in the league now. Like, are we just fucking gonna win the league? We're gonna win the league. We're gonna win the league. Right? Like,
it's, you know, there's a lot of signs there that would incline me that way. I mean, I've said before that I put Chelsea as first in my Predictor League. I think it was within the realms of variance. You know, you've got a 3-point gap on City already, sitting at the top of the table, even if on alphabetical order. As you are tied on with Liverpool for games played, wins, goals scored, goals conceded. But I think it was similar to the Palace game in terms of structure, that Chelsea did what they needed to do and then backed off and just sat there and were happy to control the game, control possession. Arsenal did have a few chances. You know, in the first half, they were kind of all at sea, and I was surprised that there wasn't more for Chelsea. I know I joked with you to say that if Chelsea aren't winning 3-0 at half-time, that it should be Tuchel out. But they were still generating chances, and it was interesting to watch. But, you know, enough about what I think or don't think. How are you feeling? What are your thoughts? Try to be as measured as possible.
I mean, literally at halftime, I was just walking around singing to myself, "We're gonna win the league. We're gonna win the..." Not even to like a tune or anything, just kind of repeating that. And I believed that before the season started, and now we bought Romelu Lukaku to address like our one sort of point of weakness. And I don't think like 11 for 11 playing in our system, like I don't at all see a flaw. Our potential flaws really are in depth. I worry that we sold too many strikers. We sold Giroud, we sold Batshuayi, and we sold Tammy, and we only brought in Lukaku. So I guess Timo, insofar as he plays through the middle sometimes, is going to be our backup there. But we do feel kind of thin at striker despite bringing in Lukaku. If Conte goes down for any significant amount of time, we don't quite have anyone that does what he does. So again, the depth there is of slight concern. But like 11 for 11, I do genuinely think we're the best team in the world at this point. And I don't see where people can attack us at all. Like, we're just fucking amazing.
Yeah,
again,
I think
we talk about the attack and all that, but like the run of only conceding less than 0.5 XG over and over and over and over again, whether it's against the Palace or a mid-table team like Arsenal or one of the best teams in the world like City, like, don't sleep on our defense to like be the thing that actually ends up winning us the title, despite the fact that we have Lukaku and Havertz and Mount and Pulisic and Werner and Ziyech and like everybody attacking and all that. Like,
yeah, but I think you had the defense last year. It was just scoring goals or you know, not you didn't score enough, but scoring more basically to secure positions, and it alleviates pressure. You know, when you do have that goal threat so much more, and it's not just coming from one place. Teams can't just isolate that threat and keep attacking you. You know, the more pressure you give up as a defence, the more likely you are to concede, even if it is from a worldie. You know, so I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't have that worry about Chelsea. It was literally the upfront, and I've joked about it and said to you about Timo Werner and him not being the person to be in that position for Chelsea. And I think getting Lukaku in absolutely addresses every concern, and like. You've got a potential golden boot winner. That's not a joke or not hyperbole.
And he was talking about this in his introductory press conference. I've watched every single minute of Lukaku sort of content this week that you could find on the internet. And he said that like when I was here last time, it was much more about my speed and getting in behind, playing through balls and running onto them and scoring that way. Like that was kind of how he made his name at West Brom, Everton, and even at United. And he feels, not to, you know, I don't want to tread too dangerously close to pace and power and that whole like racial thing. This was all his words. But he feels that when he went to Italy, he was able to develop the tactical and technical side to his game, playing in tight spaces and playing slower. That he perhaps didn't quite have as developed when he left England. And I do think he comes back to the Premier League complete striker in every possible sense of the word. Like today, the goal he scored on his debut, ghosted in, tap in from a yard out, like wide open shot. And that's because he's an XG type of striker. He knows how to find space on a cross across the goal. But he also, to me, I think the thing I was even more impressed with was his back to goal play and playing like a sort of 1-2 backboard for Havertz and for Mount and for Werner and for like, you know, everybody just kind of playing off of him. He is so smart and he sees everything that's going around and he's constant. You can tell that he's going to be a little bit of a leader because he's so much older than the other attacking guys. He was like already being like, pass it here. No, you play there. You kind of like kind of directing them a bit.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I think he can play in behind, like he said, like he used to. I think he can also play a slower possession type game against packed boxes. I don't fucking see a weakness with us other than potentially some depth. I really don't. And I think we're going to win the league. Full stop.
Yeah, I think that what you said about strikers is interesting. I know there's quite a few centre-backs as well that have moved on. And so whether there's going to be an issue there, if Tuchel is going to keep playing with three centre-backs, you know, that is always the only concern. But then, of course, everyone has that kind of thing. You know, you look at City last year, you know, if you lose De Bruyne for a long stretch, can you do it? Or, you know, if United lose Fernandes to an injury or those kind of bits, that is a leveller for everyone and just kind of part and parcel with what happens. But do you think Tuchel carries on with this style, this formation? Because you were saying, you know, you think he was going to change it up today to fit Lukaku in. But personally, and I'm glad I'm right based on exactly what you've said, that I thought that this system works really well with him potentially being able to be a backboard to Mount, Havertz running straight through. They're close to him. But then you also have the wing-backs. You know, Jorginho and Kante sitting there holding gives the wing-backs unbelievable licence, as we saw today. Reece James with a goal and assist. Phenomenal performance. To then be the people just pinging in crosses as well. And that gives you dual threat instantly from a great formation. But do you see him going to a 4 at the back, or what do you kind of feel?
I still think this will be our default system against 99% of teams. I think that Werner and Pulisic even play in those sort of wide forward, advanced 10 kind of weird positions that Tuchel has behind Lukaku sliding in just as well. That's maybe a team that you would play with a little more speed. But everybody fits into that system really nicely. We have 6 to 7 players to play at center back for 3 positions. We have 2 to 3 players to play at right wing back there. We have 2 to 3 left wing backs there. Like, I think it really does suit our talent. I think you end up getting the best out of Alonso in a back 3 wing back system. I don't think he's good at all as a fullback, but I think he is one of the best wing backs in the world. And we have seen that. He's starting over Chile right now on form, like purely, you know, fairly, I think. But I think that Tuchel, you know, he's Tommy Tactics. I think that there's so many options here. We could play with a front 2 with like Lukaku and Werner as the fast little playing off of him. We could play a top 2 with Lukaku and Werner or Lukaku and Havertz or Havertz and Werner. Like there's so many different options. Reece James has played right center back, has played right back, has played right wing back. Chalobah can play in midfield. Like there's so many versatile players in there that I think we could do anything, really. But I do think that the 3-4-2-1, I guess you would call it, that we've been playing is going to be how we mostly play. I just want to shout out, by the way, past me, in like episode 15 or 16 of us, when we first signed Jorginho and Kovacic, I said, if you look at the numbers, those 3 guys could be the best midfield in the world someday if things break the right way and get the right manager to find that out of them. Turns out Sarri and Lampard were not those managers, but Tommy Tactics shows up, and all of a sudden, 2 out of our 3 midfielders are in the 2 out of 3 positions for UEFA Player of the Year. And the one that missed out is Kovacic, who is fucking amazing. Like, so just shout out Tommy Tactics. I think he gets a lot of love for the center backs. I think he gets a lot of love for the front, but, you know, that midfield 3 really being, like, unbelievably elite is really nice.
I thought you were just going to shout out yourself then, rather than Tommy Tactics, but, you know, you've done that already. So
yeah, but a bit of both there. You know, it was implied, the self shout out. Thank you.
Any kind enough thoughts about Arsenal?
No, they were dog shit. They were absolutely fucking terrible. We just penned them in and they did nothing. They rolled over and just like, you know, I mean, no, zero nice things about Arsenal there. the announcers were shredding them. They were like, oh, normally when something is going this poorly, you're like, I don't know what's happening. It's all kind of collapsing in different areas, and you kind of have some sympathy for the manager. But in this case, it was very obvious what was going wrong, and he did nothing to address it, and they are still absolute garbage, and just fucking went on a rant. And this was, I think, a former Arsenal player. Just went on a rant about how fucking terrible they were and how Arteta did a terrible job. And I still think Arteta's the head for the sack race. Him or Ole, probably. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. No, nothing nice to say about Arsenal. Do you have anything nice to say about Arsenal here?
I mean, I think they did grow into the game a bit more and were at least generating some chances and threatening on the break a bit. And, you know, there is a big...
They had 2 shots in the box, my dude. They didn't generate shit.
Yeah, but you're also playing... Like, I can't talk about Palace last week and how they did against Chelsea, it being good, and then also not say similar things about Arsenal. Like, I want to be fair and constructive that, like, Chelsea are worlds apart from Arsenal. So still getting into those situations and causing a bit of chaos and a bit of drama and you know, potentially nicking something. Like, I could have seen Arsenal getting an absolutely sweaty goal in that game. Like, could have. So at least trying something. Arsenal fans probably won't go for that or won't be too happy, and because they're just, you know, in some ways very blinkered. I genuinely have seen a lot of weird Arsenal fans on Twitter, whether it's true or not, saying that they're going to change clubs to Palace and, like, we don't want you, fuck off. But, you know, they start off the season with the loss against Brentford, lose against Chelsea today, 4 goals conceded, no goals scored, and then, you know, they're about to go to the Etihad. And so I don't know whether Arteta can have a word and Pep can do his mentee a favour and gift them a few points, but I can't see anything there other than being carnage. Then they go to Norwich, and I mean, yeah, Norwich have conceded a lot of goals. They obviously conceded 5 to City, but they've also been attacking and will fancy be properly up for it at home. So I do worry that, I mean, not necessarily worried, but I think Frank de Boer's record might go. The 4 games in the league with no goals and no points. Maybe.
Arsenal are currently 19th on expected points. And the worst defense by the underlying numbers so far this season. Obviously, the sample size is ridiculous there, and I'm bringing that up as slightly a troll because it's mostly noise. Don't read it into the actual numbers yet. Don't do that till like the 10th game of the week for those of you that are first exploring the world of analytics. But fucking hilarious. They do, as of this moment, technically, I guess, on the underlying numbers, have the worst defense in the league.
Oh, dear. Anyway, we touched upon City there, playing Norwich. Obviously, after the first game, a loss, didn't really know what was going to happen. You know, that's how you answer it, with as many as 5 goals at the Etihad.
Yeah, just the 5.
Just the 5. Comedic own goal to kick off.
We are going off of Kaylee's. Yeah, we're going off Kaylee's XG numbers this week because FBref has not fully updated, given that we're recording about an hour after the game's finished. But Cahill had this at 2.3 plus an own goal versus Norwich's 0.03. 0.03.
0.03.
One lonely little shot dot in the corner of the box. That's it.
The sad thing is, I do think there was a game where Palace did 0 last year. So I think
it was against us, wasn't it?
No, that was a 0.1. At least he got rounded up, or whatever it was.
Okay, fair enough.
Only 1 decimal place. But I do think there was one that was 0. Yeah, City, I mean, they just bundled in a few goals, got the own goal. Jack Grealish didn't really know much about his first one. Chaos for Laporte's for the third, and then, you know, that's kind of all she wrote, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I switched off after 3-0. I switched over to your game, actually, because I was like, oh, Chuck's there. I want to see what's going on. So I watched like the last half hour of Palace instead of City just demolishing Norwich. But they were fucking gorgeous to watch. It's only Norwich, so like there's not much to read into it. Similarly, I guess we should bring up Liverpool. Just putting the smackdown on Burnley. Liverpool 2.9, Burnley 0.7 on XG. Liverpool 2, Burnley 0 on the actual score. Just both teams better than the teams they were playing and getting the results that they deserve. Like, I don't know that you can necessarily read into either of those that much.
I find it really funny that you announced that game as the SmackDown when Jurgen Klopp came out afterwards and said, if you want to see that kind of thing, you should go watch the wrestling, in reference to Burnley's physical nature in that game.
Burnley do love a bit of violence, so that is a fair complaint.
Yeah, I mean,
although with the rule changes this year, right? Talk to the people about the rule changes a bit.
Well, this year, like especially seeing it live and being there at the game for Palace Brentford, and we spoke about it last week that the referees seem to be letting more stuff go. Is that it's stuff like that? It's kind of the wrestling and jostling for the ball, where last year, like pen, you would have said, or free kick or whatever, and this year it's just kind of getting waved on. Example possibly, just trying to, off the top of my head now, Chelsea for the penalty shout for Arsenal is just like, because of the nature of it, and it's almost like a, what you call in Formula One, a racing incident of just two guys going for the ball, colliding and tangling up and going down. Like, they're not going to be as soft for the attacker on that this year. I was surprised there was one where a player left out a trailing foot. With the Spurs game, the Spurs-Wolves game, I was very surprised that Dele Alli actually got the penalty given, because I've seen stuff where if they look at it over VAR and they can see the player wasn't making an attempt to put his foot down and was just leaving it trailing out there to get the foul, that wouldn't be given this year. So that was quite strange. But
yeah, they do this every year, though. They redefine what a penalty is for 5 games. They enforce it slightly differently, and then it just goes back to being the same thing that it always was.
Yeah,
but I should say for the record, because Adam is probably yelling at his broadcast, his episode right now, that was a pen, Adam, you're right. But it wasn't a clear and obvious error, and it wasn't given, so shut up, deal with it.
I don't think it was a pen, but yeah, I saw it in the Palace game that there was a few times where literally players were just running through each other. Like we saw it with Tarkowski's goal when he ran through Maupay for the corner, that was fair enough though, because all Maupay was doing was just standing there to try and block him, and he just got run over. Lukaku was doing it all day today with Arsenal defenders.
Oh yeah, I mean, he just steamrolled him for the goal. It was fucking the guy had his arms around Lukaku, was pulling backwards, and then about a half a second later was on the ground rolling.
Yeah. That's going to happen. And then for Palace, a couple of times in the middle of the park, like Gallagher has gone to control the ball, and a Brentford player has just literally run through the back of him. And you're like, right, okay, so hasn't necessarily taken the ball, has gone for it. It's a bit 50-50. But most of the players are stopping, even to see. So I think we're seeing that a bit more, that where the referees are letting the game flow in some areas and not others, it can be a bit staccato, and we see how the players adapt to it. We all know Klopp likes to complain about some things, but I think if the situation, the example I saw was that a Liverpool player was backing, he got the ball, kind of chested it down to control it, and was then backing off into a Burnley player so much that the ball was then about 3 yards in front of him. So the Burnley player just turned and just pushed back, and like for me that, fair enough. If you're not attempting to play the ball, you're now blocking me. I'm just going to use your momentum to get round you. Like, I don't think that's wrestling. I think that's the part of proper football, as we say, that you can have. Like, there can be some sort of jostling and some sort of contact, or some sort of, we're not just going to pander to you just because you're trying to do something, and like, I then can't be physical with you. Like, we want to see honest challenges for the ball, and not just like our 2 players running for the ball and one bounce off and flies to the ground. So like, and it's the defender, and then they get the decision just because they're the defender.
Yeah. Lee Dixon on the American commentary, actually, who I normally despise, had a very funny joke and very self-aware for him. He goes, normally I'm sitting here complaining that the game's gone, but with this new refereeing, I think the game's back. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
because he just likes to leg break and tackle, just stick him in the mud. But
him, Martin Keown, all those. But no, it's nice to see that there's enough of an evolution that it is changing things and making the game flow more. Like, it's stoppages and all that. It's just a pain in the arse, and the ball's not in. We want the ball in play. We want stuff happening more. We want to see these players. If you're going to say that this is the best league in the world, like, let's show it across the whole the whole league, everyone getting a chance to like exhibit what they've got, not stop-start.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. There's that famous number where 30 minutes of the average match is the ball outside of play. Like, if you actually did stoppage time, it would be 30 minutes of stoppage time. But I don't want to, like Lukaku against an Arsenal defender, I don't want to steamroll the conversation on Liverpool and City here to talk about refereeing and penalty rules and all that sort of stuff. No love for Liverpool, putting up a solid win, 2.9 XG, 2 scored against Burnley. Burnley, who are, allegedly a good team. Defensively, at least.
Allegedly defensive. I don't think we've ever made allegations that we thought Burnley were a good team. Like, I think the fact that we have an award for someone overperforming against what should happen, named specifically after them, kind of confirms that. But yeah, I think Liverpool did. They do what they do. Like, they're a good team. Burnley had their chances. I mean, Ashley Barnes had it in the back of the net, giving it the big one. Only for the offside flag to be up. I think there was a penalty shout at one point potentially for them, and McNeil had a good shot, especially early on. Like, they started really bright and they were attacking Liverpool. Liverpool had a clearance off the line, blocked shot, those kind of bits. So, on a different day that could have gone another way. Burnley have had their number before. Burnley are the ones that ended their run. Their, whatever it was, 68 home game run or something like that last season to get it. But yeah, I mean, six points, 2 clean sheets, the same Chelsea, Liverpool, they can be happy with where they're at.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly reasonable assessment. Speaking of games that could have gone another way, that's a good place to transition over to our Mr. Stimson, or I guess this week I should say Mr. Puente. Go ahead and cue the jingle.
Oh, they're better than they ought to be.
Burnley of the Week.
That's right, we had a Burnley of the Week on Sunday, August 22. Southampton won, Manchester United won, Manchester United's title hopes being dashed in only the second week of the season. Different models had this differently, and we can talk about why that's the case in a second, but I'm going off Understat just because that's what I have in front of me, and that was 0.6 to 2.3, so that is quite the Burnleying, with Southampton not even getting to 1.0 and United being well over 2, and the result going the way that it did. Chuck, any thoughts on Southampton 1, Manchester United 1? What happened here for United? Are they done? Is it, Ole out finally? What do you got here?
I mean, what a bring back down to earther this result is after you pump Leeds 5-1 in your opening home game, and then it's concede an own goal, and then, try to batter them and generate all this XG and just get a draw. I mean, it's points. It's not necessarily the United of last year. They went 1 down and we were laughing a bit about it, but we know how many points they got from losing positions last year. But yeah, I think Southampton can be incredibly happy with that. I know you watched the game. I was watching I picked Spurs Wolves to have a little look today based on my fantasy team pick, and I didn't want to see Bruno Fernandes score 1,000,000 points on me again, but he didn't. Brick. Gutted FPL Twitter. So what were your kind of thoughts on how the play went? Because, to me, you look at those numbers and that should have been a dicking.
Yeah, I think actually both of those matches, the Spurs Wolves and Southampton United in that time slot, are useful conversations, or could potentially, if I want to get into it, lead to semi-useful conversations about XG and how to measure it and differences there. Because United were much the better team. I think that is both borne out in the numbers and in the less advanced analytics. They had 81% of the chances, they had 15 shots to 8, and they had the majority of possession as well. But the Cahill, I just looked, has this as low as 1.5 for United as compared to the 2.3-ish that other ones have it. And that is because of that one Sunday League-ish goal mouth scramble where United had a save from point-blank range, then hit it onto the crossbar, and then had a goal line clearance by a defender within an inch of getting goal decision systemed in. So a model like Cahill's or FBref, if they came up tomorrow, which is based off StatBomb's number, would consider that as only one sort of scoring opportunity or chance being created. So they would take, I think, the best of the 3 XG shots, whereas Understat and Info Goal and probably XG Philosophy would take all three of those shots and add them towards the total. So you're going to overstate it there. But I still think United were the better team. It got pretty fucking boring towards the end there. I was on my phone a lot of the second half. But United should have won that, I think. But talk to me about Spurs-Wolves. Because that one, Spurs 1, Wolves 0. Wolves 1.5 to Spurs 1.7 on XG. So a very, very close match. How did you see that one going there?
Yeah, again, so, we say about the numbers and those kind of things, so we're not sure at the minute how that take it. Obviously, Tottenham got a penalty very early on. Personally, not sure if it should have been based on what they've told us the new rules are. Last year, I would have said, but, it is what it is. You can't change that. And, when you get a penalty and a goal and you go ahead that early, away from home, regardless of what team you are or who you're playing, they kind of sat back quite a lot, and I was surprised at seeing how Tottenham played. I mean, they had a really solid defensive performance against City. Got the 1-0 win there, and Tottenham were just very happy to let Wolves have the ball. I mean, Adama Traore was. It was everything but the end product again in this match, but he was still playing in some fantastic crosses. He was doing little tap-ons, so you're like, right, well, there's nowhere near enough space for him to get the acceleration to beat this person when you're 10 yards from the byline, and he was tapping it and making it, and it was just unreal. Like, if he actually performed and people got on the end of his chances today, there was one in particular from Jimenez in the second half, where Jimenez's control, he was all alone, not too far from the penalty spot, and his control just took it away from him that bit much that he couldn't then make the most of it. But yeah, it was very strange that they were really happy to let Wolves just keep attacking. Tottenham weren't overcommitting on the counter, I didn't think, and of course one of their own got on the pitch and then got a yellow card for time wasting. So that was then kind of all she wrote with it.
Yeah, I mean, the beefy boy was a menace in this match. Absolutely. His numbers really stood out. And this is one where we can bring in the conversation slightly about non-shot XG, which I've brought up before. I couldn't find any good numbers on it because there's just not that many models out there. But I saw Cahill saying on Twitter that this would be one where the expected threat or the non-shot XG would be much higher than the actual XG, because basically Adama Traore was getting into spaces, being in very, very dangerous situations, but then the last final product of like getting the shot off or laying it across, and you said there was no one there for his tap-ins and all that, like the expected threat or the non-shot XG would both have that, as he created unbelievably dangerous situations, but because traditional XG is just based off of those shots coming off, that will understate it in some way. Although the shots weren't not there. Wolves took 25 shots here compared to Tottenham's 8. Like, that is just unreal. So I don't know. Tottenham, maybe this in the non-shot model or in the expected threat model, this would be your Burnley of the week, potentially.
Maybe.
But I
mean, it's the perfect start for Tottenham. Absolutely perfect start. 2 wins, 2 clean sheets, 6 points. Away you go. That's exactly what you need from what with, especially with all the Kane saga going on.
Yeah, 13 minutes off the bench for him today. He's sort of back, maybe?
Yeah, to him, I thought maybe he would have come on a bit earlier, but again, the early goal changes a lot of that. I think Nuno's managed the situation perfectly. That he's controlled what he can control, batted away what he couldn't. When he's had questions at interviews about always Kane here is whatever, he's like, look, I'm working with a team, I'm working with this. Like, it's irrelevant. He's got the players here, and he's getting a bit of a tune out of them for now. Adapting Dele Alli's game, who came out today and said it's much more kind of defensive, kind of box to box than he's used to, having both sides of the game rather than being kind of a number 10. And you forget, I mean, how old is Dele Alli? He can't be that old.
25, 26, I would have to guess. I mean, we can Google this.
Yeah, I mean, we can Google it. We should maybe know it. But, like, he's been around for so long now that you maybe think that he's a bit older.
Yeah, he's 25.
25, so he's still, like, not even at peak. And if he finds this position works for him and Nuno gets that out of him, like, that would be that'd be great. Tanganga again looked good. Sanchez was managed to hold off, Beefy Boy as much as possible. Dyer, Sanchez and Dyer, centre-back pairing, 2 clean sheets. Like, what is happening? Dyer nearly scored as well. Lloris made a lot of saves. So
2 clean sheets, but they've conceded 3.6 XG for the record. Like, they're already overperforming by 4 in their defense.
Yes,
so,
but
off to an early start with the Tottenham this year.
If you can overperform in those situations and get it, then when you actually perform and deserve it, that's kind of what does you well in the table, right? That's ultimately, so you can say that there's a few worrying signs there, but it's early days under Nuno, and it's not necessarily the first team. They're still looking to strengthen. There's the Kane thing. Tongi and Ndombele is putting in transfer requests. They've got Romero, who's come in as a centre-back who hasn't started yet, or, I think he played 1 minute last week. So there's kind of a lot going on at Tottenham, and they'll be loving the fact that, they're sitting at the top of the table in joint first, and Arsenal are sitting there in joint last.
Yeah, that's got to feel pretty nice.
You're welcome, Jeff.
They've made some decent signings, Spurs. I think they have a good plan for if and when Kane goes, maybe when, more so. Who's going to come in? They have a few names that they've been linked with. I think they'll have the money ready to go there. And if he does stay, then they get to keep Harry Kane, which is obviously a short-term benefit for them. I still think they'd be insane not to sell a 28-year-old that's had so many surgeries for a record amount of money, but whatever. I could see them... I still don't think they can push for 4th, because I still think that's going to be Liverpool or United, and there's quite a gap to those 2 teams. But I could see Spurs pushing up into the Leicester sort of level of them almost creating a second tier below the top 4, but above the rest of them, just a little sliver of a sort of region in the table. Because Spurs, like you said, did get the results. They do have reason to think that they could overperform for actual sort of reproducible tactical reasons, as opposed to just pure random variance or noise. Yeah. And I could see them on the way up. I don't love it, but they're still Spurs, so they'll fuck it up somehow. I'm not worried. But yeah, I mean, speaking of they'll fuck it up somehow, sorry, Chuck, that was the best transition I could think of. Talk to us about Palace. Talk to us about the game. It was 0-0, 0.6 to 0.7 on XG. I was watching this one on TV, or at least the last half hour, and it did look like both teams were trying to create chances and trying to score. It was a lively 0-0, I would say. How did you feel in the stadium, though, at least in terms of the soccer of it?
Yeah, exactly that. It was very, very lively. Both sets of fans gave a really good account of themselves. I was for my first game back, I wanted to try and see as much of the total game as possible. So sat by the halfway line, had a really good view of kind of everything going on and how we were playing. And it was a really, really entertaining affair. Both teams came close. And we're both really attacking it. Point is a point is great. I would have liked a goal, but what I have to stick by what I've said, and I will stick by what I've said because I think it's right. I think this team needs time. I think Vieira needs time to implement everything in. Some key parts of the puzzle still aren't necessarily there. We got to see Joachim Andersen make his full debut. Mark Guehi starting next to him. Conor Gallagher made his full debut because he was ineligible, obviously, to play against Chelsea last week. And I mean, just the centre-back pairing was unreal. They weren't dribbled past once. They were comfortable on the ball. They were making great passes. Linking play. Mark Guehi went on a couple of runs again. Joachim Andersen put in a great tackle on Mbumo that was right at that limit of he couldn't get a red card for it, but you're getting a yellow, but yeah. It was a proper you're not going to try this move again. And to be fair, Mbumo did nothing after that. And Gallagher was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. The way we played was a 4-3-3. Kouyaté moved up from centre-back back to a defensive mid position, which had mixed results. It wasn't very comfortable on the ball. They were pressing him quite quickly and we were losing the ball from there. But then we had Gallagher and MacArthur playing as aggressive, high-pressing eights. at properly being box to box, and it was amazing to watch. Gallagher, Zaha slipped him in for a ball, and his first touch was far too heavy, but then just smacked it and managed to hit the post and the crossbar with the same fucking shot. That one was just couldn't believe it didn't go in. That would have been a fantastic start. And so if we see Gallagher and Zaha specifically get up a bit more of an understanding, then that's going to be dangerous and a big threat for us. It doesn't help that Gallagher's a lone player, so he's probably going to end up back at Chelsea next year. The only
he'll go back out on loan. It's the loan army. He'll be
maybe. But there was frustration building a bit between him and Zaha at points. I think there's just an understanding that needs to be built there. But then we saw that with Zaha a bit too much yesterday, for my liking. Not probably live anyway. Probably the worst performance I've seen from him. Just kind of very static when he wanted the ball. Inviting, Brentford were quick to press, very, very quick to press. And so when you're just standing there waiting and someone makes the pass to you, he was getting someone nip in front of him quite often. So he wasn't kind of coming short for the ball, wasn't going long consistently anyway. But then also, if the Gallagher shot goes in, that's an assist for him. James MacArthur had an incredible shot. David Raya pulled off a wonder save out of the top corner to miss that, to save that towards the end of the game. But I just feel that the pieces are there and we're gradually building. We've got a lot of players still to come in. I mean, if you put Eze in that team, who is now saying that he's possibly going to be back this year. He's so far ahead of schedule. His recovery's been phenomenal. He's meant to be out till February with a ruptured Achilles. Nathan Ferguson came incredibly highly rated at the right back position from West Brom. Very good, very attacking, creative. He's ahead of Eze from a similar injury after a knee injury. Michael Olise is probably going to be back after the international break. Milivojevic coming back from, obviously I believe his father passed away. And, again, there's still talk of signings as well. And so just building that squad and, it's progress. It's a point. Brentford aren't necessarily going to be mugs this year. I didn't like a lot of what they were doing was lying on the floor for ages, and the player being injured enough that he had to lie there still for a minute and a half or so, but not injured enough that the medical team had to come on. That kind of crap. And it was about 4 or 5 shithouse instances of that. Probably should have had a play at Norgard, probably should have got a second yellow card. He was already on one, went in for a challenge on Zaha. They both went down. Zaha gets up to take the ball and literally Norgard wraps his arms around his leg.
Yeah, I saw that. It was pretty funny. It was hilarious. That would have been insane to give him a second yellow, for the record. You're crazy.
It would have been...
That's some Palace shit coming out.
Yeah,
that would have been insane.
But we weren't sure what was happening because I was behind that as you look at the player and literally just saw Zaha. Zaha was just stood there with his arms out and pointing. And obviously we're saying, pass it, but didn't realise, and play on, but didn't realise that literally someone was holding his foot. But there was a few other bits there. I think Pontus Jansson was kind of playing the ball a bit more than the man. But we did well. Ivan Toney kept quiet. And I personally in the stadium only really felt threat from them on set pieces.
Interesting. Okay.
Which considering, you look at Chelsea last week and it's a 3-0, but one goal from a free kick. You can't really account for that. And the other one from a worldie. Different day, that could have just been a 1-0, a solid 1-0 win for Chelsea. The XG kind of said similar. And so if we're not giving up the chances from open play, that's incredible progress. It really is. So
you talk about progress, you talk about being patient, giving the team time to sort of come together. All reasonable things. Do you feel, though, that you've made enough or have enough sort of forward momentum, at least in terms of that, if not the results, going into your insanely terrible run right now? Because I'm looking at the schedule and it doesn't seem like you guys have another good or even necessarily winnable, besides luck, no offense, fixture for 2 months. It's West Ham, who were within half of an expected point of Leicester last year, Tottenham, who were Tottenham, Liverpool, Brighton, who were the third best defense, Leicester, and Arsenal. Genuinely of those, and fucking delightfully, Arsenal are the easiest to get at and the most likely for a result for you guys.
I'm not enjoying we got to wait till October for that one.
Yeah, October 23rd. Today is August 22, so that's literally 2 months and a day until the Newcastle fixture. That's a long time to have to go relying on progress. So do you think that there's enough progress that you'll be able to sneak a result from one of those? Especially maybe away. You guys tend to do better away than at home. And the away ones there are West Ham, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Just talk to me how you feel about that going into the next 2 months, because that's a long stretch.
It's not easy. It is by no means, but then we do that all the time. The difference, I think, with Vieira is the attitude. James McArthur said in an interview recently that everything they do in training, any form of competition, there is a forfeit. There is, and Vieira's really going about this winning mentality. When he said about targeting Brentford before this game, following the Chelsea game, when he was asked about that, he said, "No, we want to win every game. It's not about having certain games that we target more or whatever, or just rolling over, and that kind of thing is what I'm sure a lot of Palace fans want to hear." After Hodgson, we've got to clear out a lot of negative mentality from the team. We managed to do quite a lot of it probably through the players that left on free agency to kind of start afresh. It's what we needed after 4 years of incredibly negative defensive football without being defensive well enough. Do I think we get a lot of, do I think we get a lot of points from that? No. Like I said before the start of the season, if we get past game week 10 and we have 10 points, that is a really good result. I didn't say that was my expectation or anything like that. We could realistically get to that point with 4 or 5 points. We could, we could have less. However, for this year, we just need to be better than 3 other teams.
There's plenty of bad teams. Yeah, there's plenty of bad teams.
There's plenty of variance. It's a bad run, but every team will have bad runs. You can't necessarily worry. You just have to take each game as it goes. West Ham have looked very good in recently. They obviously play Leicester tomorrow, so we don't know what the result's going to be there. But it's not unheard of to get something against them. Tottenham could have an off day. If we're saying that they're coming close and just getting 1-0s. Who knows? And that's after international break. We don't know who's coming back, who's going to be affected by South American fixtures, players travelling to red-listed countries, how that's going to affect. Then, obviously, Brighton is a huge game for us. It's at home, so I fancy us a bit more than that. And then, so, Leicester, we've had a mixed history of. We've got Arsenal, we've got Newcastle. So, as long as, for me, I can't account for any club's Twitter, any whoever, whatever you say, because there's people out there saying ridiculous shit already, like Vieira should be gone. This is insane. Whether it's just people doing it for takes or retweets or fucking whatever, who knows? People saying it's the worst they've seen. It's not. It's really not. This is so much better, and it's you can't.
I've seen worse, and I'm not even a Palace fan. I've been here enough.
It's not FIFA. It's not. And I will say this about any team that's in transition, any team like Arsenal or Palace or Southampton in a way they had, or Villa or Newcastle, or you can't just plug and play. It does not work like that. Life does not work like that. Sport does not work like that. You can't go, right, I'm going to put in a cheat code and then I'm going to buy a striker and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then my team of 7, it doesn't matter about team chemistry and all that, and I'll just put them in because I'll be able to play. It takes time. And the fact that our centre-back pairing looked like one of the coolest I've ever seen on the ball, that breeds confidence. Then you add the parts around that. Joel Ward, arguably, at right-back is our 3rd best right back, and he was playing and did really well. A left back, Tyrick Mitchell, hasn't gotten used to attacking and overlapping as much as, say, a Van Aanholt would. And so, there's so many different pieces of the puzzle to go in that, I am still positive. I really am. I think it will come good, definitely. And I don't think we go down this year. If we do, we do. That's life. That's football. But I'm happy right now.
Cool. All right. that should do it for the football then. Obviously, there's one game that hasn't gone, and there's a few games that we're not going to talk about. We should wrap things up for this week with the Predictor League and one listener question that we are going to take because it is from the good doctor and my lovely wife.
Right.
So we will be taking that question.
I can see her sharpening her knives behind you, mate. Just
That's
saying.
correct. Yeah, so we're going to answer that one. It's actually a pretty good one anyway. But yeah, let's check in on the Predictor League, Mr. Chuck Bailey. What's going on there?
So we have a Predictor League, which is where you can send in your predictions of where you think all 20 Premier League clubs will finish. We're up to 34 entrants now, just another 16, and the prize will be £100 winging its way to you. Entry is completely free. DM us, send us private messages, email us, milesoffsidepod@gmail.com, where you think all 20 teams will finish. You've still got a bit of time, 9 days before, once the transfer window shuts, entry shut. At the minute, it's becoming a big family affair. We've got wives and girlfriends. We've got kids. We've got like 5 people's kids that have entered as well. Some of their predictions are insane. Some of them have Palace winning the league. I mean, and that's not even my child. Not even my child. So get in touch with us. Enter. Let's go. Woo!
Nice. Sounds good. Then I guess let's wrap it up there. At least let's take it to the one listener question that we have today. This is coming from the good Dr. Emily. And she asks, in your opinion, what is the best soccer film of all time? Chuck, I'll let you take this one first. What do you think? What's your favorite soccer film or the best one?
I mean, it's obviously Stephen Chow's Shaolin Soccer.
Yes. Okay, good. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
Wait, is that your answer?
Absolutely. Yes, of course.
Ah, yeah.
Where the dude does like the flying kick and the ball catches fire. And just fucking love that movie.
Why do you want that? Like, I don't care about whatever the Pele one with Sylvester Stallone playing the goalkeeper and where...
Victory, I think is the name.
Escape to Victory, that's it. Where Sylvester Stallone didn't know enough about football that he was told he would be the goalkeeper and also said he wanted to score the winning goal. It was serious. Doesn't work like that, mate. There's some... I mean,
it could be if you're Ederson, in fairness. Maybe he was like, I'm a sweeper keeper. I'm going to get up there.
That wasn't a thing then. But, I don't think... Meme Machine, the UK version of Meme Machine is quite funny. But, yeah, Shaolin Soccer, just for the chaos, the fun, the acrobatics, the weirdness, the comedy. I think Stephen Chow's phenomenal anyway. Like, Kung Fu Hustle is an incredible film. So much fun to just whack that bad boy on. And so, yeah. I'm saying Shaolin Soccer, and you're saying Shaolin Soccer, so this segment got a lot quicker than I thought.
Just to keep things interesting, I guess, so that I don't give the exact same answer, even though that was going to be mine, and we're on the same page. I will say shout out to, and I don't mean this sarcastically, I'm sure some people will think that I mean this sarcastically, but the Goal movies, and especially Goal 2. Santi, getting his dream move from Newcastle to Real Madrid, kind of losing his way a little bit in the glitz and glamour of being a professional footballer, all that sort of stuff. If you are an American and you've never seen the movies and you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the Goal movies, GOL. There's a third one that you cannot find in the US. I've tried. I think it was like straight to DVD in the UK or something like that. But it tells the story of this Latin American player who gets his big break in Newcastle and ends up at Real Madrid eventually and all this sort of stuff. But I do really genuinely like the Goal movies. Where you're at on those, Chuck?
I've actually never seen them.
Oh no, you got to watch them.
So I might check them out. I've seen
Spoiler alert, he ends up at Real Madrid.
I've seen memes and GIFs and stuff like that of it, and I've heard it referenced, but just I don't know why. I don't know. It's just been a bit of a gap because I was struggling to think of many football films. Like when you say,
you got your Bend It Like Beckham, you got your Fever Pitch.
Yeah, like football films that aren't just based on football hooliganism, because there's a lot of them.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen Bend It Like Beckham. I mean, Bend It Like Beckham, doesn't it have a Shaolin Soccer-esque moment where it follows the ball to the keeper and the ball's going all over the place and the camera's behind it, and all they've done is I've seen like a behind the scenes thing of someone filming something like that, and it's literally the camera attached to a broom arm with a drill on the bottom of the broom arm with the ball stuck on a drill bit and just spinning as they follow it with the camera. It's quite fucking clever.
That's awesome.
I'm sure there was a bit like that in
I
there.
can't say I remember that, but I haven't seen Bennett like Beckham in many, many, many years. Like 15 plus or whatever. I don't know how old the movie actually is, but...
Oh, jeez.
I don't know. Watch the goal movies, dude. What are you doing? Log off right now. Fuck this podcast. Go watch the goal movies.
Oh, okay. Should we finish this podcast first? Or
yeah, I guess. Let's wrap it up. We got fixtures for next week.
We'll do fixtures. We'll do fixtures. Sorry, Arsenal fans. We kick off the week. Saturday, 28th of August, 12:30. Man City at home to Arsenal. I fear for ye again. We then have Aston Villa versus Brentford, Brighton versus Everton, Newcastle, Southampton, Norwich, Leicester, and West Ham versus Crystal Palace in that 3:00 slot. Big game late on the Saturday. Liverpool at home to Chelsea. It's our first top of the table clash, the kind of teams that we think can go close to winning. What are your thoughts right now? Like genuine, not overhyped? I want to hear.
No, I'm telling you, this is not like me over emotional or anything. I genuinely, really not overhyped think we are, especially after getting Lukaku, the best team in the world. And I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm not afraid of Liverpool. They might beat us. I mean, they're an amazing team, obviously. I'm not like saying that they're not. Especially if maybe Salah can start passing to Mane and or vice versa.
They really should.
Imagine how good they'd be. But no, I'm not afraid of them. Like, at all.
Score prediction? Score prediction?
2-0 to us. 0.4 on 2.1 to XG. Boom.
There we go then. Okay, well, we'll check on that next week.
What do you think? Am I being crazy? Am I wrong here?
No, I don't think you are being crazy, but I just think that there's enough in the realms of variance of two great teams going up against each other. It's a big battle in the midfield. It's Lukaku against Van Dijk. It's
yeah, that's going to be tasty. That's going to be good.
Going to be good. Seeing Salah, Jota, Mane going up against the Chelsea three. Do we still see wing backs that attack so aggressively? Who knows? I'm really looking forward to watching that one. I'm very glad that they obviously were going to have that one on TV here, but I'm very glad that is available for us. Then on the flip side of that, on Sunday, it's Burnley Leeds, so that'll be a thing. We then have Spurs Watford at the same time, and round off the week with Wolves against Man United. That could be an interesting one as well, especially based on how Wolves played today, Man United played today. They can be got at without producing much at times that maybe we didn't predict they would. So that kind of wraps it up for this week. Thank you very much for listening. Unfortunately, I can't perfectly time an outro this week because we don't have the music to go over it. So, Oscar, I'd just like you to, any closing thoughts, any whimsy, any merriment, mirth?
Go watch Suicide Squad if you haven't yet. It was really, really good. One of the best superhero movies this year.
Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad.
Yes. The 2021 one.
We accept no responsibility if you watch the wrong one. We will not give you that time back. Finally, thank you to our producer Patreons, Mr. Johnny Worthington and Mr. Nate Whittam. Join us at patreon.com/Miles Offside Pod. There's tons of extra content, FPL pods, Slack, stats, all that goodness. Shout out to all of you. Thank you very, very much for listening, and goodbye.